My name's Grace Hardy and welcome to my mini-series all about behind the scenes of being a business owner. Obviously, I've got my jelly cat with me. This is Phil. Today we're going to talk about how I got started with my business, what tips and tricks I have for other people, and what I would and wouldn't do. So I started my business in November of 2023. I started it as a joke because I had just handed in my letter of resignation at my old workplace because I really wanted to go travelling, find myself like every other 20-something girl. And when I was looking at flights and things to do, I wanted to go to Bali, obviously, but it was rainy season. So I thought to myself, right, I have 3 months before I can go travelling. I can either go back to work in hospitality and save up a little bit more money, or, lol, I'm a qualified accountant. Let me just start an accounting firm, and if it does well, amazing, I'll carry on. If it doesn't, oh my god, I have to go to Bali. That's so terrible. So for me, I had two really good options. And also, whilst I was working corporate, I could see how people would just get stuck there for 40, 50, 60 years and never be able to leave that corporate cycle because the benefits are great, the salary is great, the bonus is great. I wanted to be able to do something meaningful with my life and make meaningful change. And I knew I couldn't do that in a corporate setting. And so at that point I knew I had to leave no matter what. And so I wanted to go travelling to be able to clear my head. So just before I set up my accounting firm, I actually went to Accountex, which is obviously an accounting convention. And I went there all incognito, in my glasses, in a big puffer jacket, just to sort of suss out what the industry was like and if it was somewhere I could see myself being immersed in. I went, I absolutely loved it. I stayed with my cousin because it was in Manchester. I took notes in all of the talks. I felt that the people were so inspirational and willing to help, and I just loved the community and the environment. So from there I decided, okay, yes, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start an accounting firm. First things first, I had to come up with a name. I chose Hardy Accounting because Hardy is my mum's maiden name. It's also my grandparents' name. I was very fortunate that they put a lot of time and money into my education, and so for me I wanted to do something that I knew would make them proud. They were so proud of me all the way through my apprenticeship, so for me this was just a little way of giving back. So then I had the name. Then I needed to create a logo. If you know me, you know I do not have one creative bone in my body. So I got my cousin to help me to create my logo. I just did it for free on Canva. I came up with my brand colours. And then from there, I really just downloaded social media. So I downloaded an Instagram account to start. I started by explaining finance and accounting concepts through Instagram. Those posts were not aesthetically pleasing. They were way too wordy. They weren't in a way where my ideal client would understand them. They were too much. And so those posts really didn't do well whatsoever. I then decided to download TikTok. It wasn't really a platform I'd ever used before, so I got my sister to help me understand TikTok and how it worked, and so I started creating content on there. I first started creating ego content, which is where I was posting about myself. So I was posting day in the life of a business owner, things like that. And they weren't really doing that well because no one cared about me, which sounds really harsh, but on social media, people aren't necessarily there for you, especially if you have no followers. They're there to be entertained or educated, or both. And so when I realised that, I started creating more educational content around tax, finance, accounting, how people can save money, what are ISAs, all those things that people genuinely want to know more about. And that's when my social media really started to take off. I started to implement that into Instagram. I started to explain more basic concepts that we as accountants take for granted. So for example, what are the tax brackets? What is tax? When is the tax year? Those basic things that I know like the back of my hand, but the average person, because they're not taught financial education, does not know the answer to. That is how I gained my first client, was actually through TikTok. And about 90% of our clients now come through TikTok, which is bizarre to me because I always thought that you had to go networking, be in person, show up, all that sort of stuff. But you actually didn't, and to me that was really, really bizarre. I love that I can get clients that way because I always wanted to set up my practice to be 100% remote, so at some point I can go to Bali and find myself, which I haven't done yet. By having that pipeline through social media for clients, it means I don't have to go to networking events. I know that if I post educational content, I will be able to find clients through social media. When social media started to do well, I started to really sit down and think about my social strategy. What did I want to be known for? I heard everyone talking about personal brand everywhere and I was like, okay, I want to make myself personal brand. What is it going to stand for? So I decided that it was going to stand for small businesses, apprenticeships, and helping young people start businesses. So I started talking about all those things on social media. I started a LinkedIn as well to talk about my journey and to promote apprenticeships. And for me, loads of huge opportunities started coming through LinkedIn. So I'd only got clients through Instagram and TikTok, but I was getting speaking opportunities through LinkedIn. And for me, it really cemented the fact that everyone sees what you do online, no matter if they engage or not, there's always eyeballs on there. And because I was talking about my AAT apprenticeship and how I had started a business because of my qualifications through that apprenticeship, people from AAT started reaching out to me. I had the Department of Education reach out to me asking me to do a talk. I've had interview opportunities through LinkedIn as well, which to me is absolutely incredible, and that's what I wanted from my personal brand. And so at the beginning of my journey, I said yes to absolutely everything. Every workshop, every masterclass, every podcast, every interview, I said yes to. And for me, it's because I wanted to build a really strong foundation and have loads of stuff that I'd done that I'd be able to sort of make into a portfolio to be able to take to brands later down the line. Everyone says you should always get paid to do things, and I think in the beginning of your business, you're not going to be paid for everything, and I think that is sort of okay. You need to build up a reputation and a brand for yourself before you can start charging. And it is a very scary transition to do, but for me, at those points, those brands were giving me more than I was giving them. And so for certain talks, it made sense that I wasn't being paid. Also for me, I've always grown up with the fact that I need to help other people before I help myself. My mum really instilled that in me. And so I wasn't too fussed about not being paid because the exposure was fantastic, but also I was helping so many people. I was helping all those hundreds of people I was speaking to, and for me that was literally so valuable. Probably in spring of 2024, I really saw that the accounting firm was really becoming something bigger than I ever thought it would be. So I decided to put more time and resources into it. I started to write down processes for when employees come on, they know exactly how everything works, how to collect identity, what letters of engagement to send out, all those sorts of things literally is so important, but I hadn't put the time and effort into them because I didn't think it was going to become anything. And so from there, that's when all the efficiencies and streamlined processes came in, which really helped me scale. And I knew that I didn't want to be working in the business 5 days a week. For me, I love going to events, I love networking now, I need to make time to create content as well. And then I also started a podcast in spring as well. So I needed to make sure that I had those streamlined processes so that I'd have the time to do the other things as well. Because those other more front-facing things generate a lot of clients and a portion of income as well, so it's important that I can do both. I started my podcast back in spring of 2024 because I love chatting to people and I love helping people, and for me, running an accounting firm, you can only help the people that are clients or that attend masterclasses and workshops, but you can't help everyone. And so for me, a podcast is a way for other entrepreneurs to have a platform to be able to tell their story and for us to have frank conversations about the highs and lows of running a business. And also how amazing apprenticeships are. I got a couple of apprentices on. I got my mum on my podcast, who was a training provider for an apprenticeship as well. And so people can sort of move away from the idea that university is the route to becoming successful. I think there are multiple routes to becoming successful. We see time and time again everyone coming from a different background, and that is so valuable and it needs to be spoken about more. So I'm now 11 months into my business. And yes, there's definitely been times where I've wanted to completely give up and throw it all away because I thought it was too tough. And there were times where I wasn't enjoying what I was doing, and life is too short to do things that don't bring you happiness. But I know that entrepreneurship is always highs and lows and ups and downs, and so I have persevered. I've kept going. I've been able to do amazing things now. My face is on bus stops, which is absolutely bizarre. But I'm really looking forward to the next year of business and seeing where it takes me.